I'm always happy to talk about Madonna, or to you, or both.
One day, the three of us will be talking.
I fear that. I fear that day,
I fear the
just
day.
before we're arrested.
Welcome, everyone, to Madonna Songbook, the podcast about Madonna's music, her great songwriting, and producing talent. My name is Giulio Mazzoleni. I've been a fan of Madonna's music since 1985. My first job was to represent the official Madonna fan club here in Italy back in the 90s. I worked for 25 years in the recording industry. I've even had the luck to promote two of Madonna's albums here. I'm an artist manager, and last year I wrote a book about Madonna's music. It's called Madonna Songbook. It's quite thick, isn't it? It's got all the stories and the facts and stats about 500 of her songs. Why this podcast, you may ask? It's because of the book. The warm and emotional feedback I received from readers convinced me to share more stories about Madonna's music and make justice of such an incredible collection of songs. I know there are many podcasts about Madonna in general out there, and I'm a fan of some of them myself. But I also believe that there is a large community that specifically likes to focus on Madonna's music, discussing her songs away from all the distractions. So here we are. If you are like that, this is the place for you. My book covers Madonna's career in chronological order, song by song. Here instead, I'll pick two songs in each episode, titles that come from different areas and different eras of her career, but have strong similarities. I will invite special guests to discuss them, and we will draw some parallels and show how those songs belong to one of Madonna's artistic mantra, as I like to call her recurrent themes. This will bring the conversation to a whole list of songs that fall under that common theme. And to find out more about that and enjoying some special listening, you can find those songs collected in specific playlists in my book and on my Spotify account. I hope you'll enjoy this podcast. Without further ado, let's take a journey into Madonna's songbook. Leave the chatter behind. Let the music take control. The subject of this episode is Madonna's movie soundtrack songs. We will talk of two big songs, Into the Groove and Commotion, and then we will digress on all other soundtrack songs Madonna has released. Some of them are among Madonna's finest compositions. To chat about these songs, I invited a special friend and a very special Madonna fan and writer, someone who lives in Magic New York City, who knows all about its entertainment industry and has a profound understanding of Madonna's cultural impact on our society, Matthew Rettenmund.
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
Ciao. I'm excited to welcome you, and I'm so happy you accepted being my first guest. I thought you should be the first because you actually encouraged me to write the book, and you supported me through 2 years of hard work and guided me even when I wanted to give up, and you helped me a lot. Not to mention that you introduced me to Anthony Coombs, who did the design of the book, and he did an amazing job, both on mine and yours. You remember when we first became friends?
Yeah, we were pen pals first, in the 80s, late 80s, via our great friend Mauro Bramati. And we wrote back and forth for a number of years. And I don't remember, what I don't remember is when we reconnected. I don't think we reconnected until maybe the late 90s.
Mauro Bramati introduced us because we both collaborated to his local Italian fanzine, Virgin. And then I came to New York when you released an Encyclopedia Madonica. I was there that summer.
Really?
And we got to see each other in person. And then I lived in New York in 97 for about a year, and we hung out.
Did you come to a signing?
No, it was August. I think you released the book in May or
right
June.
After. Mm-hmm. I just remember you were obsessed with Broadway and Liza Minnelli.
That's true. I still am. I can't wait to see her documentary, by the way.
That's wonderful. And
then over the years, every time I come to New York, I really enjoy spending time with you. We've hung out with Elise Rosenberg, whom we both admire. We have an adoration for. And we've been front row beaches at Madonna's concerts in New York and Philadelphia last year.
Oh, that's right. Globetrotting. And all the way from New York to Philadelphia
And Milan.
by bus.
But let's talk about you. Let me formally introduce you. Let me see if I get it right. Matthew is quite known in the Madonna community. He's an author and a magazine and web editor and blogger. He has written novels like Boy Culture, which I really like, which was made into a film and a series, as well as Blind Items, which is a personal favorite. Loved it. I think I read it like 3 or 4 times. Matthew has also written a memoir in the last few years, Starfucker. And he runs a fantastic blog called Boy Culture about entertainment, music, movies, theaters, gay issues, politics, and nice-looking men. He also ran a famous teen magazine called Pop Star, which was quite influential at the time and currently writes for The Advocate and Esquire. But most famously for us fans, Matthew has written Encyclopedia Madonical, as I was saying, back in 1995. This is the first edition. And the book, after coming out that year, has been updated and has had some gorgeous re-edition. This is the latest, right? This one.
Yes.
Here it is. As you can see, I have bookmarks because it's always interesting to go look and find out things. There's everything about Madonna from A to Z. And it's really helpful. Whenever you have doubts, you go look up and check things and you find information and have a lot of fun. Oh, and you did MLVC 60, which is another personal favorite with a lot of bookmarks, which is a book with thousands of Madonna magazine covers presented with a fantastic visual concept that you did along with Anthony, right?
That's correct. Yes.
How about that? Did
got
I miss
everything right.
anything?
No, I think I can't add anything. You got it all.
I think I know you. But before we discuss the music of this episode, I want you to please share with us what I call your Madonna experience. 2 questions. When did you become a Madonna fan? What struck you the most about her at first sight or first listen?
Well, the first time was I was being driven back in a car from playing Dungeons and Dragons with some friends, and I was really obsessed with Billboard charts. So I would stay home and I would write down every song each week, completely unaware of the fact that Billboard had a publication and all the songs were recorded in writing already. So I would, if I was going to go anywhere, my mom would have to write them down. I mean, I really was obsessed, and I was really interested in what hit, what was able to hit the top 10, what never hit the top 40, all that stuff. So I was being driven home, and I had just been listening to "Let the Music Play" by Shannon, and then on came this song, "Holiday," and I just thought, oh, this is great. I love this. And in my mind, this was another Shannon. This felt like kind of a post-disco song by a black girl. And I immediately investigated and discovered it was Madonna. And I was really captivated by the fact that she was from Michigan, which is where I was from. So she grew up really a short drive from where I grew up. And that was part of it. But I was into Cyndi Lauper and a lot of other, and Annie Lennox and Tina Turner, a lot of other artists too. And so it took a little while before I really narrowed in on Madonna. I thought Cyndi was going to be my main sort of focus, and I kind of wish she had been. It would have been a lot easier. But I remember I definitely went to a store called Myers Thrifty Acres in Flint, Michigan, and I bought Like a Virgin single as soon as it came out. I remember that very vividly. And I was a little intimidated by Madonna because I was living through her, vicariously through her, because she was sexual and she had this sexual agency. And I was a closeted gay kid I guess I would have been about 14, 15. So I liked her, but I was a little nervous. And that's why I didn't go to the Version tour, because I'd never been to a concert. I was kind of a late bloomer. I didn't go to a concert until after that. And I thought it was something that the slutty girls at school should be doing, not me. It seemed like it would be coming out of the closet if I wanted to go see Madonna.
Yeah, I
But
understand.
then I remember I loved Desperately Seeking Susan, and I bought this poster, a personality poster of Madonna. That was the very first piece of kind of ephemera, memorabilia. And really within the year of 1985, as that progressed, I became much more fixated on Madonna than any other artist. And I think I also really loved the idea that she was not well respected as a musician. Um, I liked that because it felt like I was challenging people basically to challenge my intelligence and my taste. And I felt you could be a pop star and a pop artist and make wonderful art that would be lasting. And these were thoughts that I had. And I was right. It
You're
lasted.
you were right indeed. Well, congrats to Cyndi Lauper for entering the Rock and Roll Hall of
Yes,
Fame, but Madonna made
not on
it
the
12
first
years
vote.
before. Yeah, exactly. Second question, what is to you the most beautiful song or album she's ever done to you? Or just shine your light on the one thing that you have closest to your heart, musically speaking.
Oh, her best song is "Shit on the Ground." No, her best song to me, and I'm not saying this just because of the present company. I've always felt that "Into the Groove" could easily be considered her best song. Uh, Depending on the day of the week, I would pick I would pick "Into the Groove." I would pick "Like a Prayer." I would pick "Vogue," and then more personally, I loved "Paradise Not for Me." Um, Time Stood Still. I like those kind of songs a lot. But those three, I think, it's arguable, but those are, I think, inarguably among her top 10. Um, Album wise, it's very hard to get over the first album. I didn't even buy the first album until after I'd already bought like a version. But I feel that the first album is just so flawless
Hmm.
for what it is. And and then I would say I'm not an erotica person, although of course it's great. And then I would have to say Ray of Light and Like a Prayer are duking it out. That's my top three. I love Confessions. I mean, I like all of her albums. They're all great. She's never had a bad album, in my opinion.
I agree, actually. So let's get into the groove and talk about the first song today. And actually, it's a personal favorite as well. I think it's top three for me. And yes, I said get into the groove. As you know, I really like calling that song like Madonna does. Everywhere she mentions that in Truth or Dare, in interviews, she says get into the groove, which makes me think that that song was so rushed and improvised and casual and unplanned that they probably filed the song title wrong, but in her mind, it's always been get into the groove.
It must be the title she had in mind when she created it, but I sort of feel like once you pick the title and it's produced, you have to go with what she put on the album. So I've always thought, but I've always picked that up too, that she always calls it Get Into the Groove.
At
And so does
Live
Liz
Aid as well.
Rosenberg, by the way. So,
Exactly. So does Liz, who calls this song the national anthem. So I think
yes.
she really likes it too.
But it's an
Mind you, Madonna
international
did
anthem.
change a title of one of her songs after it was out. It's Spanish Eyes, who became
Yes.
Pray for
Pray for
Spanish
Spanish
Eyes.
Eyes. Those are the two that I always feel like she needs to pick.
Yeah, exactly. So this song generated in summer 94. Madonna was supposed to give a song to Mark Kamens, who got her signed to Sire when he was the resident DJ at Danceteria. And as a favor for what he did for her, he was working for a singer called Cheyenne. And the song was destined for them. And she made this demo very roughly in her apartment on a hot summer day with her windows open. And people who have the stems say that you can hear the noise street sounds and all of that under the tracks. And everything is synth programmed very cheaply on an 8-track recorder with Stephen Bray. And her friend and dancer Erica Bell was in the room. And they were just putting it together very casually, probably because they thought, this is just a song for Mark Kamens.
It's like a great Black Mirror episode to get that technology where you can listen to something and then go into the room and see what was happening at the time.
That
It
would be
definitely
amazing.
has that quality to it, even what was committed to record. It doesn't sound like something that was labored over. It feels like an outburst. It feels like an expression, and I think that's part of what makes it so fresh even now.
Uh, totally fresh. Every day you play that song, you get this coolness that it's incredible. Erika was reminiscing that they were having issues with finding the bridge, Live Out Your Fantasy, and they couldn't come up with it. And then Madonna said, "Give me that note." She got up to the microphone and sang the whole thing improvised and like it felt like she was possessed. It was coming out of nowhere. And that's how the song still feels to me every day. It's that voice coming out of the speakers.
And I think it's a testament. Well, I mean, of course, you could argue that maybe she was at the top of her game at that point, and so she was just spitting magic. But I also think it's a testament to the fact that she does even better when she is not overly thinking it through. Like when she's making a song, I think there are a lot of examples of songs that Madonna herself doesn't think of as being her best work because she'll refer to them as being movie work or contract work or something that was done quickly, and those just really come across so well. I just think it's she's got such a knack for what a song needs to go over, and obviously a way with words, which she doesn't get credit for. She's never given great credit as a songwriter, but she's written or co-written some of the greatest songs of the last 50 years.
It's true. And as you know, that was the reason why I started writing this book. I told you there's beautiful books around Prince and other musicians, all male, by the way. I wish there was something like that about Madonna. And you said, no one's ever going to make it unless you do it. I will remember that thing forever. And the thing is that, yeah, she's such a talented, natural and spontaneous songwriter and composer, because we know her as a calculated, in the nice meaning of the word, like carefully detailed oriented artist when it comes to her visuals. But everyone I interviewed for my book has been saying that she insists on preserving the spontaneity because it's pop music. It can't be overcalculated. Now, we know that she has elaborated on songs like Erotica for many months, but those are exceptions.
Yeah.
Most of the times it's like bang. And this is one of those cases.
I think
And
there's times when she has a song that there's something about it she really loves and she doesn't want to abandon it, but she knows it's not right. So those might be get a little more attention.
true. Another crazy thing about this song is that, like I said, it wasn't meant for Madonna, and she brought the demo on the set. She played it to Susan Seidelman. And recently she explained that she was looking for a sound bed music, temporary music for the scene they were shooting, the club scene in the movie, which is Danceteria. In one of those numerous crisscrossing of real life and fiction of the movie and Madonna's real life. And so I think the director was looking for something that Madonna as an actress would feel at ease with. And she asked her, do you have some music you want to use? It will be temporary music. It won't be shown in the movie. We will put something officially from the soundtrack. And she said, well, I have this demo. If you want, we can play that. And they danced to it, literally. And then when they were editing the movie, obviously Madonna's fame has risen, and Orion Pictures wanted the song, and Susan said she loved the song, and they asked Freddie DeMann about it and went like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Madonna's manager had no idea the song existed. And they
It's
were
great
all...
when a story like this is real and it's not a product of faulty memory or self-mythology. Like, this was literally one of her best songs, and it was something she just kind of threw to this director of her movie as a placeholder. Then things took off so quickly, like she had to just sort of play catch up. And from what Susan Seidelman told me, they fell in love with the song. And when they did approach, Freddie DeMann and the other people at Warner Brothers, they had not heard of it. And I think they actually pushed some of her other recorded work on them to see if they could get one of her singles into the movie. And fortunately, so fortunately for Desperately Seeking Susan, they insisted and they persisted and they got into the groove. Because then as it worked out, when the movie came out, it was a brand new Madonna song, an amazing Madonna song. And in fact, it was so good that they thought it was going to torpedo efforts of other singles on the charts. And that's why it was never an official single in the US.
Right, it was the B-side to Angel.
Crazy. I remember buying that and just thinking, this is not right. How could this not be a single? But she had too much material at that time. I mean, she had hit after hit after hit. and they didn't want it to interfere with Like a Virgin's success.
Right. I remember she was, we're going off topic here, but she was adamant about not releasing Crazy for You at that time because she wanted to focus on Like a Virgin. So she had the Like a Virgin album, Material Girl, and Crazy for You was in the charts. And on the day she released Angel with Into the Groove on the B-side, the movie premiered in theaters, and she started the tour.
Everything happened at once. Sometimes things don't just happen for a reason, they just happen. And for her, everything was really, really happening. Um, I mean, I guess we're lucky in retrospect that she did choose to go along with Crazy for You because it had added a new dimension to her as an artist and as a vocalist. But you can't help but wonder, what if they had not released Angel and had instead focused on Into the Groove? It just seems like such an obvious number one hit for the US.
Totally, which became Madonna's first worldwide number one hit and the first to sell 1 million copies internationally. And then a person I know here in Italy used to be at the head of Warner's, and he had the idea of stripping it onto the international edition of Like a Virgin,
Oh,
which
yeah.
pushed the album.
Did it pushed the album and it pushed the movie. So that song did a lot of work for a blow off.
Right, because everything here in Europe happened in the fall. So the album reached number one position 1 year after being released. And in the fall, Susan came
Right.
out, the movie. Well, what I have is one of my most treasured possessions, the shape picture disc from England.
Yes.
I really love it. I was so desperately after this for years. Talk about the song again. There's two other versions. Actually, there's a crazy distinction between the song that you hear in the movie and the one that you find on the record,
Oh, how would
because
you describe it?
it was so rushed that they used the demo, the mono
Right.
demo in the movie. And then when they convinced Madonna to somehow release the song and put it on the B-side of Angel, Stephen Bray ran to a studio and did the mixing on his own for the first time. He said he went to the studio without even requesting an engineer to be there because he had no idea how it worked. But he was told, give us a stereo mix now. And he went to Madonna and said, let's put down vocals, new vocals, better vocals. And she said, no fucking way. Leave it as it is. And he did the stereo mix, which is slightly different. But then there was the
She knew better
fantastic.
there. She knew best because the vocals were just right. But it is interesting if you watched Susan as many times as I have, it just jumps out at how different the song sounds. But it kind of works in the movie because it just makes it feel more distant. The fact that it's not an amazing, studio version, it feels sort of like what you would hear, like
It
that if
feels
someone had
real.
handed their tape, to a DJ in a club. So it just feels, and that was her club. So everything about that was real life.
Yeah, true. And then there's Shep Pettibon's remix with that fantastic piano solo. What do you prefer, the original version of or the remix?
In that case, I really like the original, but I love everything Shep does. I love all of his remixes. Gosh, maybe Express Yourself is
Mm,
my favorite that he completely deconstructed and reconstructed. You can really do no wrong. I always loved getting remixes because I just felt it was another bonus song. Like I remember people complaining about Rebel Heart because it had so many songs, too many songs. It can't be a great album because it has too many songs. I always want more. To me, more is more. So if there's a remix coming, it doesn't erase the fact that the original song exists. It's just another flavor.
And finally, there's the Missy Elliott collaboration on the Into the Hollywood Groove when they mashed Hollywood with Into the Groove for the Gap commercial in 2003.
Good Pants. As a song, it was Good Pants. I mean, I don't know. It's nice. It's not something I need to listen to again. Um, but it was always, I liked that she was, referencing back to herself and to that song, which I think is also the first song that she self-referenced in a later song. She does refer to that song quite a bit. Um, I liked it. I liked it that she redid it, but like I said, it's not something I revisit very often.
Right. It's crazy though that Madonna doesn't really like Into the Groove. She has said many times that it's one of those songs that she does because she has to during her shows. And in an interview, she said, I don't know, I just had to get it out of my chest. I was obsessed with a Puerto Rican guy living across the street, and I was trying to get him out of my mind. So I wrote down those lyrics. So to her, it felt something stupid. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
maybe she also just resents not having known in advance it was going to be a huge song because I feel like sometimes I feel like she was a little taken aback when Vogue exploded too, like, because she didn't expect it to be anything, and all of a sudden it became everything. But she's a lot more fond of Vogue than Into the Groove. That seems obvious. Not even
That's true.
talking about causing a commotion.
Yeah, after saying so much about Into the Groove, one could say that it's impossible to find good notes about causing a commotion, but I myself am a huge fan of that song.
Yeah, it's a great song.
It's a great one, and clearly they made it following a kind of template. Like they said, Stephen Bray said it, I want to recreate another synth pop song like Into the Groove. And like you said, Madonna self-references herself for the first time
Right.
in one of her songs by saying get into the groove in the verse of Causing a Commotion. It's really, I thought it has a crazy groove. I really like it. You know, they often referenced Motown hits, and this is a perfect example. They created this song at the end of 1986 while Madonna was still shooting Who's That Girl, which at the time was called Slammer. And they made two songs together, and two were made with Patrick Leonard. But Stephen Bray was in charge of the whole soundtrack for the movie, and he created all those beautiful clips and little bits and pieces of songs throughout the movie. And I also adore the cartoonesque version, or what I call the pre-TikTok version of Causing a Commotion that they used in the film opening.
That's an amazing song, and it's I think what I love about the song is that there's so much drive in it. It's kind of like another Gambler for me. It's very brassy and has so much confidence. And I was shocked when it didn't hit number one that year. It just felt like, how could that not be number one? But Michael Jackson had other plans.
Well, he was just out with his new Bad single, which is something probably a huge, colossal hit for his career. So it, good for Madonna to get that close as to number one. I think that was the only time in her career when she was um, competing with Michael Jackson, because she phased out at the end of 87 and he phased in with Bad. And then when he did
Sounds right.
Dangerous, she was between Immaculate Collection and Erotica and so forth. And Bedtime Stories came out before he did History.
I wonder about like later. I mean, I don't know about what happened overseas with because when Look of Love was a single, did that conflict at all with any Michael Jackson tunes? That could have been a single in the U.S. as well. I feel like
Right.
in the early phases of her career, she just had a wealth of songs that could be singles, and some of them that were never chosen to be singles was just because there was more coming. There were more
Yeah,
songs coming
exactly.
right down the pike.
The so-called imperial phase, as Neil Tennant from Pet Shop Boys witfully put it. Like, it's the time when an artist, whatever they put out, it will achieve a great success.
Spoken like a smash hits editor.
Yeah, as he was. What else should we say about Cousin Commotion? I mean, there's a lot. The crazy thing is that it never appeared on any greatest hits collection. It
Yeah, and
wasn't,
I think that's what started the sort of belief among fans that she does not like the song. It's hard to see how, when you're creating Immaculate Collection, you decide not to have Causing a Commotion.
and Who's That Girl?
Because it was actually one of her biggest, I mean, in a weird way, and in a literal way, it was one of her biggest hits. If you look at her greatest hits on the charts, and this kind of blows my mind because she's had so many number ones, it was more successful than some of her number one hits,
True.
and yet it didn't make it
Stephen
onto.
Bray was supposing that she was so disappointed with the outcome of the movie, Who's That Girl, that she decided to shelve the whole thing. And in fact, she didn't sing Who's That Girl again until the Rebel Heart tour. Like for
That's
30 years, she
true.
never mentioned the song.
And I think during the whole, I mean, I think with Causing, especially like when Immaculate Collection came out, there was a thought of like, well, maybe she's not doing movie songs on
Hmm?
this. You know, there was always an excuse. And then of course it's created a cottage industry for that guy on Instagram, Justice for Causing a Commotion. which I think
Exactly.
came to a head when she finally referenced the song and did a little bit of it on Celebration to
Yeah, it felt
to
like, wow,
pretend that she
fun.
likes it.
Yeah, maybe she was trying, like, okay, I'll give you what you want.
Pop that and get it
But
over with.
even cutting it out from Finally Enough Love, there were 550 number one hits that she had. The one she removed was Causing a Commotion.
Yeah, it's strange. It did feel strange. And wasn't that the one that there was also like a release of Causing a Commotion just before that? Like a special,
Yeah, they made that little
and that was
RDS,
sort of the
Record
excuse.
Store Day release.
Again, that was the other excuse of like, well, we just gave you this. But it does feel like it was sort of the bastard child of the family.
True,
There's
which
something
is why
about
we
it.
like it.
Yeah, I mean, how can you compare it to so many of her other songs and not feel that it's as good? To me,
Totally.
it was such a fantastic song, and you can only remember, maybe if she doesn't want to remember the movie, remember the opening credits of the movie. The opening credits were are definitely considered by real cinephiles and by artists and animators as an achievement in animation. It's a fantastic opening credits sequence. So remember it for that, if nothing else.
Right. I loved it so much. This is the cassette that I bought in 1987 and spent my whole summer obsessing about the four songs that Madonna did and
I
causing a
bought the
commotion.
single in the USA, but I don't have it anymore. I didn't keep it.
Oh, this was the item I was desperately after for years, the picture disc.
Oh yeah.
I remember because I didn't have a turntable. And so I would buy cassettes and stuff. And then I would go to record shop and go, look at this. I cannot own it. I couldn't think of like, I'll buy it as a merch item like every Taylor Swift fan does
Yeah.
nowadays, sending her albums to number one for 8 months.
I remember I bought the I'm Breathless CD years before I had a CD player. So that's when I was kind of getting into I'm just buying everything. Like I'm just going to buy everything. And then I changed from that to fixating on as much as I love Madonna's music and I love talking about Madonna's music and listening to it, I don't collect it because I'm not an audiophile. And so if I want to hear a Madonna song, I can just as easily listen to it on YouTube and be satisfied. And I'm not listening for imperfections and I just don't feel that way. So at one point when push came to shove, I sold my vinyl and my CDs and my cassettes and I don't have them anymore. I do have a couple of special picture discs. I have the one that you showed because it's Susan related. And I've bought some of the more recent collectible ones. Why, I don't know. Because of
Collector's
everything you have,
choice.
you should have the oldest stuff. But yeah, I'm an impulse buyer.
There's no right criteria when you want to have a collection. You just go with what you like and what you decide to discard, you let it go. I
Right.
mean, who would listen to a 3-inch CD of Who's That Girl and Cousin
I had all
Gosh?
those too. I did. I remember
Cute.
I knew this guy. He ended up being my roommate, and he worked at a record store, import store in Chicago. And Chicago at that time was really like a hub of music activity and innovation, house music
House music.
all night long. Um, and I remember I saw all those, those 3-inch CDs, and I thought they were so cool. I bought them just because of the covers, and that's what I really loved about collecting. When I did collect, actually, no, I'm wrong. You know what? I do have all my 45s because I saved my entire 45 collection from when I was a kid and I was doing all the Billboard stuff. But I have all of them, not just hers.
The other thing about Causing a Commotion that really I totally adore is the bass line. I mean, getting to the groove, into the groove has a huge bass line, but Causing a Commotions is really special to me. When she did the Ciao Italia special, when she did the Who's the Girl tour, I thought that song really rocked. To me, it's really amazing. It's great. It's a great groove to go along with.
And she really sells it on that tour.
Yeah,
You never
absolutely.
know that she doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And then we wouldn't hear it again for so long. Well, I guess we heard it in. Wait, did we hear it?
Blonde Ambition.
Yeah, we heard it in Blind Ambition, but then we never heard it again until
Yeah, just recently.
a couple of lines,
Yeah.
30 something years
Um,
later. You never know when you're hearing a song from her if she's going to perform it in 2 years or 35.
That's the special thing. Um, there are so many other soundtrack songs that Madonna's done. Like you said, there's this thing that she kind of like frames them into something that is not totally spontaneous, but also she referenced to them as assignment work, and that she likes having a frame to work on, having a character or a movie theme being her briefing that she receives from the director or the producers. And to her, it's easy to write songs. I have a list of the other soundtrack songs that she's done, and there are many. For example, with This Used to Be My Playground, she had very little time because she initially submitted a jitterbug up-tempo song, and Penny Marshall said, no, we really want a ballad from you. And she had one day before leaving for Oregon, where she filmed Body of Evidence, and she went to Shep Pettibone and they laid down the demo of This Used to Be My Playground, which I heard at the Congress Library in Washington. And it's incredible how immediate and impactful it already was. She's done Crazy for You and Gambler for Vision Quest. She also did a song called Warning Signs that hasn't been released. We all die to hear that, don't we?
And Desperately Seeking Susan.
And Desperately Seeking Susan, correct. She did make a song with Stephen Bray called Desperately Seeking Susan.
Wow.
He told me they abandoned it at demo stage.
Well, where's the demo?
Exactly.
He gave us all this other stuff that she didn't want us to have. We want that.
Maybe one day. When I interviewed him, he actually turned to his piano and started singing it. It was
really?
quite striking to me.
Sense.
It was very generous of him.
I mean, they talked about the song. You know, I remember she did an interview. If I'm not mistaken, it's in an interview that just came out from that she did with Star Hits in the USA. I believe that's where I heard it. She was talking about, oh, I did this, you know, I have like all these songs I did for the movie. And she references the fact that she didn't just do Into the Groove. So it just feels to me like, when was that abandoned during that process? Unless she happened to be caught, you know, in an interview when the song was still very much alive. It just seems like we would have heard this by now. So we've heard so many other things.
Exactly. That's true.
I mean, while we're talking, Desperately Seeking Susan could be leaking somewhere.
Let's look on the web. The one other great song is Live to Tell. Again, another song that she didn't mean to write for herself and then happened to be discarded for the movie soundtrack that Pat Leonard was working on. And then Sean Penn said, well, we'll use it for my movie. And Madonna asked, who's going to sing it? And everybody said, you. And she thought it was too low key for her and wasn't suited. And then it turned out to be another huge hit.
And that's why it wasn't eligible for Oscar nomination, because it wasn't written specifically for the film.
Really?
I feel the rules are a little fluid over the years, but my understanding is that would not have been eligible. Even though it seems incredible, it should have been nominated. I've told people that she never would have been nominated for an Oscar, no matter what the rules were, up until you really can't start worrying about, hey, why wasn't she nominated for an Oscar, until you get into like the 90s. Is she just wasn't, people like that just weren't really nominated. You know, pop songs weren't as well liked unless they were sort of dinosaur rock or adult contemporary and from that type of an artist. So I just feel like it would have been a big ask for her to get an Oscar nomination in 1986-7.
That's true, but
it should have been. I mean, hey, we could talk all day about, she should have 10 Oscar nominations for songs.
Exactly. It seems like the Academy always has a reason why for not giving her a nomination. Like Masterpiece appeared in the movie
absurd.
20 seconds too late. You know, This Used to Be My Playground was ignored.
I mean, to me, if you really factor in the likelihood of her being acknowledged as an artist and the kind of song and the status of the film, the songs that just seem absurd not to have been nominated, and we know that Masterpiece had a rule that it broke, supposedly. The songs that really should have been nominated would have been This Used to Be My Playground and Beautiful Stranger, because both were from well-known, successful films. They had other nominations, you know, for musically. They were considered great music.
Yeah.
I'll Remember is another one that just seems, you know, it's from a movie that wasn't successful.
Successful.
But those three, I think, are the ones that are just it's absurd that they weren't nominated.
Right. For her as a songwriter, because for her as a performer, she got the nomination and the song won an Oscar with Sooner or Later from Dick Tracy. And so was more. There were two songs nominated, but again, they were written by Stephen Sondheim, who's a legend, who was and still is a legend in the
She
musical
won. She
world.
won an Oscar for Stephen Sondheim with her performance. I don't know. I mean, it's arguable whether that would have been one, no matter who performed it. I really think she sold that song. I really think that
Totally agree.
she, and I think the same thing with "You Must Love Me," which is not as good of a song, um, and it was probably like time to give them an award, but I think she sang it so beautifully that they couldn't resist it. Now,
Yeah,
had
she
she
made the
had a writing
difference.
credit on either one of those, I bet they wouldn't have won.
Exactly. That was the point I was trying to make. That is a sort of resistance. And the whole point of my conversation in the book is about acknowledging Madonna's talent as a
Right.
songwriter and producer. She's done amazing
But if
songs
she
like,
had said, "Hey, I want to just let's call this 'You Must Love Me a Lot,' and that's and then she got a credit for that, it would
yeah,
not have been nominated for an
it
Oscar.
wouldn't have
I
been
wouldn't have
nominated.
won. That's for sure.
That's true. That's true.
They
And
resent her. She has to come up with like a perfect movie song. I mean, the perfect scenario is she does this biopic that she's been threatening to do for so long. Somebody pays for it. She, of course, writes a new song for it about her life. And the song is nominated and she wins the Oscar for the song because they can handle the idea of giving Madonna an Oscar if it's for music.
right.
That's the ideal, scenario.
And then she's done songs that were definitely going against any chance of being nominated, like Die Another Day, which is a personal favorite, but
Could
what
easily have been
everybody
nominated, but
knows.
yes, you're right. It was kind of an abrasive song for them to. But then again, it's hard out here for a pimp wins an Oscar. So,
Yeah. And then she did American Pie and Time Stood Still for The Next Best Thing. One is
well,
quite
American
discussed.
Pie was an original,
Yeah.
um, and Time Stood Still was stunning. But when you're in a bomb of a movie, no one listens. It's hard to get the song nominated. Not impossible. If Diane Warren wrote it, they notice it.
I wish, yeah, I wish Madonna had done more soundtrack songs, but also it seems like they've gone out of the industry toolkit for successful singles.
True.
They don't belong to a kind of strategy of collaboration between movie industry and music industry. Although very recently she did the song popular with The Weeknd for his crazy TV series, right?
That's true. I think it used to be that if you did a soundtrack song, it'd be kind of an easy hit and you might get a nomination.
Mhm.
That's not always the case anymore. There's some pretty big names have been overlooked.
Well, over all these songs that we've talked about, I think I forgot to mention only What Can You Lose as official movie songs, and then the whole Evita soundtrack, naturally. Besides Into the Groove, which we both desperately love, what is your favorite? What is the one that stands out to you?
Out of all of our movie songs,
Yeah, maybe The Next Best Thing you were mentioning? Time
well,
Stood
I
Still,
love I
sorry.
love Time Stood Still. I really think it's such a beautiful song, but you got to give it up for Live to Tell because Live to Tell is a career defining moment. Crazy for You had the delivery, had the wonderful vocals, but Live to Tell had delivery and content. It wasn't just, oh, I'm crazy for you. It was, what is this song about? It had all this regret and pain and, angst. And it was like rock, it was a rock and roll song,
Completely true.
power ballad.
And I agree. And that bridge, If I Ran Away,
So
that part of the
confident, that
song.
whole song is, right? That when she just leaves us with nothing, just confident that we're going to continue listening. That's an amazing, amazing song. That's also probably in her top five, I think, overall.
Yeah. Well, it's a wrap. Thank you so much for discussing these songs. And we share so many things. And unsurprisingly, after all these years, thank you so
I
much for
will.
this
I'm
talk.
always happy to talk about Madonna, or to you, or both.
One day, the three of us will be talking.
I fear that. I fear that day,
I fear the
just
day.
before we're arrested.
Thank you again for your time. Always enjoy a chat with
Of
you because you're
course.
so witty and fun. And I love the songs we talked about today. So thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao for now.
That's it for this first episode. I am so happy to have decided to make this podcast. I love this conversation. It's always splendid to investigate Madonna's music and be reminded how many great songs she has been giving us. I hope we shared some nice stories for the listeners. And thanks once again to all those who praised my book. It took me 2 years of work and dedication to deliver it. I can only hope with all my heart that you like this podcast too, and it can bring us even closer. Please let me know your thoughts with your comments on your streaming platform, whether you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, or listening on Apple, Podbean, and anywhere else you'll find this podcast. You can also send me a direct message or a comment on Instagram at Madonna Songbook, where I'm constantly sharing contents on Madonna's music. And if you like this podcast, look out for the premium plan I'm setting up via Patreon, which will help me build a Madonna music lovers community. The plan offers the chance to win a copy of my book for each episode I release, and exclusive access to a monthly Q&A with me, where I'll try to answer all of your questions on Madonna's music and discuss through your song picks the beauty of Madonna's songs. The book is available on Amazon across Europe, Canada, Mexico, Japan, and Australia. For the US and all other countries, you can check A-Books, or you can directly order it from the publisher's site, which is called Antiga Edizioni. You can find the link on my Instagram page and in this podcast's description details. In the next episode, we will jump into another of Madonna's many musical worlds, comparing 2 songs from her long career, and that will take us to indulge in a whole other thematic playlist with singles, album tracks, and deep cuts from her immense songbook. Yes, on Madonna Songbook, it's all about the music. Let's leave all the bullshit behind. Let the music take control. Find a groove and let yourself go. See you next time.